thank you so much for having me here this morning at BOTS, Business Opportunity Team Support. And how lovely to show up here this morning and unexpectedly know just about everybody in the room. So that's I feel like I've come home, just kind of a nice feeling. So thank you for welcoming me. So as Dennis said, I endeavour to always show up positive and pink. But one of the initial messages that I would like to share with you this morning is that it wasn't always this way. So I remember this moment like it was yesterday. It was May 1998, and I had just travelled with my new baby and husband back to the UK to visit family. I was sitting on the bed in my parents' home, the home that I grew up in the village of Fulmer in Buckinghamshire in England. I was feeling completely overwhelmed, exhausted, stressed, had no love for myself or my family or my new baby. And I was reading a parenting book. We didn't have Google back then. After reading the book, I asked my husband to make me a doctor's appointment. At the doctor, I learned that I had postnatal depression and was later diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. Thankfully, as a result of having a great psychiatrist and a team of many other professionals around me, I made a full recovery. And I now, over the last 13 years or so, I've gone on to support other people, essentially business owners, in helping them work through the struggles in their lives and their business so that their business may flourish. A couple of years ago, I published a book about my story, so Full Circle, Building Resilience and Life from the Jagged Edges of PTSD, because whilst I'm okay sharing my story of mental illness with you today, it wasn't always that way. 21 years ago, it was a big secret. My parents didn't even know. So I struggled in silence because mental illness was such a taboo subject. I felt embarrassment and shame. Here I was, this person that was normally positive, a little bit of a perfectionist, and here I was struggling with motherhood and life. So part of my message today going forward is that it's okay to talk about this stuff. Through my research over 13 years of working with business owners, I know that more than 10% of business owners work more than 100 hours a week. And 5% work more than 120 hours a week if you consider thinking about business as working. You know, if you wake up in the morning and work is the first thing you think about, well, then you're working. If you're thinking about work before you go to bed, well, then you're working. So with those criteria in mind, and the fact that 60% of Australian businesses are sole traders, I think it's imperative that we look after ourselves. So the message about pepping up that I'm going to be sharing with you is about looking after yourself. Because 1 in 5 Australians experience or live with mental illness. The number that I'm hearing more now is more like 1 in 4. And suicide is the leading cause of death for people aged 15 to 44. 900,000 Australians are affected by PTSD. And so as part of my community now going forward, as well as working with business owners and leaders, I'm also an ambassador for Are You OK Day. So we have Are You OK Day coming up on the 12th of September. So I guess that's the kind of the reason, that's the background for my why now. So I say that resilience is essential to transition from just surviving to thriving in business and life. And whilst I show up, every day in pink, I choose to live with vitality. And vitality to me is a little bit like champagne. It's that effervescence that happens when you take the cage off the champagne, the cork, and then you pop the cork. Well, there's this effervescence that overflows, and whilst we're not expected to be like that all day, every day. To have the essence of that vitality and know what it feels like, I think is really important for us as people to look after our mental health and have our businesses grow. So the dictionary says vitality is the state of being strong and active with energy, or the power giving continuance to all living things. And with all that in mind, bearing in mind my history of mental illness, I've come up with a formula that I call PEPP. PEPP stands for Purpose, Energy, Pleasure and Profit. This image here is what I call the DNA of PEPP, so it really doesn't matter what order you put these 4 elements in. I'm going to talk about them this morning in my preferred order for now, which is purpose, then energy, then pleasure and profit. So when I say purpose to you, what words come to mind? Big picture, yep, perfect.
Goals.
Yes, yep. From the heart, yep. So look, I have a list of sort of subwords under purpose here. So certainly we've got goals and direction there, dreams, reasons, plans, values, empowerment, motivation. Maybe you have your own other word like Bev's from the heart is perfect. So I think Sir Richard Branson says in the modern world there can be no profit without a clearly defined purpose. So I think, well, if that's the mantra that lives behind the Virgin group, then it's good enough for me. I think it's a good enough reason for everybody to be very clear on their purpose. My purpose, I say now, is to inspire people to live with more vitality and move closer to their goals more quickly, achieve their goals faster. Australian nurse Bronnie Ware did some research on what people were thinking just before they died. And her number one reason that came back from that research was people saying, I wish I had had the courage to live my life on my terms, not to be living my life for other people. So that, again, is a very clear reason, I think, for why living with purpose is so important. And your purpose can be to set a good example for your children. It doesn't have to be the mega purpose that Elon Musk probably has to leave a legacy that changes the world in numerous ways. So your purpose can be, it doesn't have to be huge. It can be huge to you. Moving on now to energy. When I say energy, what sort of words come to mind?
Powerade.
Powerade. Okay, thanks, Tim. Good answer. What else?
Vitality.
Oh, vitality. Perfect, Dennis. Perfect. Movement. Okay, so I've got some words here. Power, health. Sorry? Power, yes. Power, okay. So when we talk about energy, what I mean by this is to have an awareness around where your own energy is at and where the energy of your business is at. So energy doesn't have to be all about being fast. It can be, actually, I'm exhausted and I actually need to stop. I now know I need to go to bed early every night this week. I need to get back to meditating every day. I need to go and walk along the beach or go for a bushwalk. It's knowing where you're at so that you can adjust the dial. So don't think of energy just as being a fast idea. Marianne Williamson says everything we do is infused with the energy with which we do it. So if we're frantic, life will be frantic, and if we're peaceful, then life will be peaceful. So if you walk into a shop or any business, might be Tim's accounting practice, if you walk into any business and the person standing there is like this, how do you feel? Down, as opposed to you walk in and they're smiling and they say, hello, how can I help you today? What is it I can support you with? It's a completely different feeling. So Marianne Williamson is really right when she says everything we do is infused with the energy with which we do it. When you wake up and you have one of those days where you sleep through the alarm and you spill your coffee and then you get changed and you put a black shirt on, and as you're brushing your teeth you get white spatters all over your shirt, and then you get every red light, and then you're late for work. Can you see that energy, that negative energy is flowing, as opposed to you're approaching traffic lights and they seem to have been green for a while, but you say, please stay green, please stay green, please stay green, and they usually do. Does anyone else do that? Like I do that all the time. And then you say, thank you for staying green. And absolutely, Nikki, you say, please, please may there be a convenient parking spot, and there is. But you have to say thank you. So everything is connected. Gratitude is a very powerful thing. So moving on to pleasure now. What words come to mind with pleasure? Maybe Gatorade as well.
No. I always think when you hear the word pleasure, there's another P word that always comes to mind.
Yes.
Guess what that is? Yeah, exactly. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, well...
How sad's that?
Wow. It's a fine line between pleasure and pain.
Yeah.
There's all that sort of shenanigans.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. I don't like to think of pain when I think of pleasure, but, blame the divine will do it.
So here are some other ideas. Gratitude, affection, contentment. You find your own word, but I'm a very big believer that pleasure is important every day. Jane Austen said one half of the world cannot understand the pleasures of the other. So like half the table here is probably drinking coffee, and I'm a tea girl or hot water. I don't do coffee. So whatever your pleasure is, it doesn't matter. That's up to you. But identify some pleasures in your life. So and I ask you the question: do you plan for pleasure every day, or do you think that pleasure is something that I'll have fun at the weekend? Who has pleasure every day? Good, because I think that is so fundamental to our mental health. Like it's just part of the big picture for how we, I recommend we live our personal lives, and of course our business is a part of that. And when I talk about pleasure and then days off, when you're going to have a day off, can I suggest that the day off starts at midnight the day before? So when you sleep, the waves in your brain, I'm going to get very technical here, the radio frequency or the waves in your mind are at a certain level, and you wake up and you go into a day off, and they stay at that sort of level where you're a little bit la-la, and it's cruisy. Whereas if you're going to have a day off, you think, just quickly check my email. It might only be a 2-minute exercise, but what happens? Your head goes into work mode. You're back into, oh my God, I got to do that. Oh, I got to remember this. I got to remember that. You're completely in work mode, and you lose the la-la cruisy mode. So. Look, I know it's hard sometimes, but if you possibly can, when you know that you're going to have a days off, holiday, that you actually start that the night before when you're asleep, so that you can go into the day off and stay cruisy.
How do you get rid of this on your day off?
Well, I was going to talk about that. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Go to airplane. Like I'm a big photo taker, so I like to keep my phone with me because I take photos. I took a photo of the sun driving here this morning. I pulled over and did the photo. I actually don't have my work email on my phone. Wow. I do have a personal Gmail account, so if it was a complete emergency, I could ask the person to send it to that. But it's probably happened like twice in 13 years. We create our own sense of emergency half the time. Like there's nobody here that's that's a brain surgeon or, in some role where there's literally life and death going on, is there? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but sorry? Look, most of it...
on your house today.
Someone sends you an email at 11 o'clock at night and you happen to know because your phone's by your bed and it goes beep and you can't resist seeing what's going on, please don't respond at 11 o'clock at night. Boundaries.
No one's expecting.
No,
And
and if they are expecting it, they're more than likely not the sort of person you want to have as a client. The person that is expecting you to respond at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night is not, I would hazard a guess, probably not the sort of person that you want to have in your world. Because, in the same way that energy is contagious, the people that we mix with are contagious too. So, like mixes with like.
But that person, Joe, is an ideal client for you. You've got a lot to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. But I need to set my boundaries. Until quite recently, I didn't have my mobile phone number on my card. On my brochures and things, I've got a landline number. So people only get my card if I'm with them and I hand it to them, and by then I expect that they know what my boundaries are. So other people, strangers, people I haven't yet met, well, they have support as an email address and they have the landline. So we've created this intensity and urgency with these things. In some ways they've made our lives so much easier, better, but in others they've taken away our freedom and probably partially a reason for this mental health crisis that we are in. So that's a perfect segue into one of my favourite quotes. Did anybody see the Christopher Robin movie over Christmas? So if you've got children or grandchildren, well then that you might have gone along to the movies, but even if you don't have any little people in your world, can I recommend that you go and see or download it, the movie Christopher Robin. It is just the most perfect movie that supports this PEPP ideal. So Pooh said to Christopher Robin, when you do nothing, it leads to the very best something. So when you take these pleasure days, these days off, you will come back to your businesses more energised, more inspired. You will likely solve a problem that you might have had for a while. Who's had a good idea when they're on holiday? Most people have. Like when you're relaxing on the beach or walking through the rainforest or skiing or whatever you like to do, suddenly out of nowhere comes the resolution to a challenge that you might have been, having with you for a while. So Pooh Bear's spot on when he says, when you do nothing, it leads to the very best something. I have a range of things that I do on my days off. There's usually a bit of pink going on. I love cooking. I love dressing up. I ride or kick my foot bike. So it doesn't matter what your thing is, but I invite you to get back to, whatever it is. And if you can't remember, well, then try different things. Okay, moving on to profit now. So as a room full of business owners or business developers, profit, of course, is really important. What other words might you use instead of profit, meaning the dollar symbol that I have on the logo? Sorry? Money, yep, what else? Reward, yep. Security, they're the sorts of words I was thinking of, yes. So on my list I've got... Yep. Abundance, benefits, income, assets, freedom, prosperity, surplus, philanthropy. So any of those terms mean just to have it front of mind, why you're doing something. So I would suggest that there's a connection between having days off, having regular time off, and growing your profits. Does the accountant in the room agree with that? I'm at the risk of...
It's an interesting conversation about time off and profit, isn't it? Yeah, my mindset doesn't always, I guess, is the same as a lot of people's, but I've sort of got the mindset of my sort of way of working, especially at this time of the year from July, first quarter, July to September. It's all about productivity, being productive. So yes, there's going to be days off, but it's always in the back of your mind to sort of get ahead. I sort of like seeing it as a way of getting it, staying up with what's going on and keeping ahead of it as a motivation. But you do need to have the 3 days for me are probably podcasts. I guess that's probably 3 days. I guess the 2 hours to do a podcast.
I'll go on to say finding your own balance is the key here. So here we've got the elements all together in the circle. You can put them in any order you like. And the order may vary or will vary naturally at different times in your life, at different times in the annual cycle of business. Different depending on what other things are going on. If you've just become a grandparent again, or just got married, or we all have life going on as well, and so we can adjust these to suit that. What I will point out is that there's actually, behind each of these symbols, there's actually a person. So the extra P there that I want to remind you of is people. So we are people first. And I encourage us to look after ourselves as individuals. We're a person before we're a business developer, before we're a partner, before we're a member of BOTS, before we're a grandparent. So to remember the extra P, that's people, because as in the Shawshank Redemption they said, get busy living or get busy dying. We need to live first. And I just before I close, I'll just quickly mention this client of mine, Tim. So Tim's thing is flying his kite. I've been working with Tim actually for 8 years now. And so he's gone from working in the bedroom to now having an office at Taringa where he's got a team of people. He fixes computers, rather like you, Marcel. But his thing is if he looks out of the window and it's windy, well, can he go and fly his kite? But more than that, he recently took 2 months off when his first daughter was born. And so he could take 2 months off because I've supported him to get the business out of his head, to systemize, delegate, so that his business ran completely smoothly while he was away being a full-time dad for the first 2 months of his daughter's life. And now he's gone back part-time. He works 3 days a week. And systems are the key. So despite this message of PEPP, that I work with now, I've always been a great believer in getting the business out of your head, systemizing, and then having the days off in the holidays to prove that the business can work without you. So I invite you to think about PEPP. If you do anything in either your personal life or your business life, ask the question, is this activity going to take me closer to my purpose or further away? Is it going to energize me or drain me? Is it enjoyable or not? Is it profitable or not? And if you don't get at least one yes, then question why you're even doing the activity. Maybe it's something in your business that does need to be done, so it's time to systemize and delegate. So I've put a card in front of all of you. On the back of the card, you've actually got a little reminder of the PEPP message. So I invite you to pep up your lives, and if you need a more detailed PEPP talk, then I would be delighted to support you. I've actually put a little flyer in front of everybody, so if you would like to receive some regular PEPP Up Your Life tips, then I would be delighted to send those to you from time to time. If you would like to buy my book, well then I have I have them here for sale, $20. And if somebody would like to win a book, I know a couple of people here have already read it, but if you'd like to win a copy of your book, well then we could do a business card draw if you're okay with that. So on that note, I say again, thank you very much for having me, and go forward and pep up your lives.